Before we get started on the next project, this camera is getting a present, and that's what's in there. I'm gonna open that sucker up and see what we got. That's awesome. They call that a dead cat for your mic, so that in the wind I can record and you'll still be able to hear the audio. Let's get it installed and then we can get started on this next project. Alright, so that's installed. Let's go out there in the wind and test it out. There's today's project. This car has reached 300,000 miles, or close enough. It's like 298,000 and some change. But it needs a complete front end rework. Struts, lower control arm, bushings, the whole thing. So that's what we're going to do today. It's a beautiful day to work on a car. But this car is going to be the subject of several videos coming up because I am going to be practicing on paint. That needs some work. I'm going to be practicing doing top coat, priming, a little bit of body work, that sort of thing. Practicing for what's sitting over there underneath that cover. That is a 1979 Ford F-250 Ranger that I am in the process of restoring. So if you're new to my channel, be sure and subscribe and you'll see some stuff about that as well. But in the meantime, let's get started on this. So first things first, let's go through and make sure that we have all of the parts that we need to complete this project. First thing you'll notice, LMC truck. That isn't for this, that's for the 79 Ford. So we're going to set that aside, check back, be sure and subscribe so that you can see what this is for the truck. Alright, we got lots of front end parts here. Lower ball joint, outer tie rod end, inner tie rod end, ball joint, tie rod end outer, lower control arm, lower control arm. What's in here? You know what? I'll bet I'm missing my hub assembly, because we have a bad wheel bearing in this as well. I'm going to have to look that up and see where that is before we tear this all apart. That sucks. These are the struts. Both of the front struts. Those are also shot. Dang it. I thought I had all the parts. Yep, struts. So, I got all my parts from Amazon. I'll leave links down below to all the stuff. This is a 2004 Corolla Sport. These parts should be the same from 2003 up through 2007 or 8, I believe. I'll put the details down below, but I need to look up that hub assembly part and see where that is. Dang it. Had to reply to one of my fans. Instagram. Be sure and follow me on Instagram. I'm going to start using Instagram a lot more. Gotta find my Amazon app first. There it is. I forgot. But I also have the seals for the drive lines. Those are right there as well. Also from Amazon. Oh my gosh. That part's not going to be here forever. Oh, I might have to do something else and cancel that. That is way too long to wait for that part. It hasn't even shipped yet. Ordered it 12 days ago. Arriving November 20th. I'm not waiting that long. I do have the bearing. I actually bought the bearing. But it's a press in. I've got to press that one out and press that one in to the existing hub. That's what I'm going to have to figure out. It's Saturday. I don't think any machine shops or anything are open. I do have a ball joint press that I might be able to make work. But man, I'd hate to get this thing torn apart and not be able to fix it. That's what this is all about, right? Get after it. Let's see what we can do. No fear. Have no fear. Alright, so I got the passenger side torn apart, at least from the wheels brakes perspective. Be sure and hang your caliper so you're not putting pressure or tension on the brake line. Those are rubber and they will break. So don't do that, don't do dumb stuff. But on the passenger side, I was having a really loud clunking sound, and I'm pretty sure that it's the rear bushing. That's it for the passenger side. On the driver's side, this is the one that has the wheel bearing issue. I don't know if you can hear that, but all I'm doing is pushing on the tire, and the lugs are still tight. I haven't done anything with this yet. So, and that's just getting worse and worse, and it's starting to hum as I go down the road. So that's definitely got to be fixed. So my rotor was seized on to the knuckle assembly. I had to get after it with the air chisel and the motivator in order to knock it loose. Oh man, too heavy to lift with one hand if you're as weak as me. So I added some AIM lubricant down into the cracks in order to bust that rust loose. It's a penetrating lubricant. I'll leave a link down below to that. It's amazing stuff. It saved my bacon many times, but having an air chisel made this job a little bit easier. You can see where I got after it from behind to get that out. But I got it. So now, next step, try to get that bearing out of that thing. Hey baby, so how you doing? It might be a little hard to see, but to take off the strut, there's just 3 bolts that go through the top into the engine bay. You can do it without air tools, but air tools just make things faster. So that's what I use. I've invested in the tools, so now I use them. So I'm just using a 4-inch extension with a wobble connector at the end, and that'll get me in there. Alright, so now I'm just digging through the new parts to find all the parts that go to the passenger side. I'm just going to attack that and get as much done tonight as I can. Comparing part numbers, both of the lower ball joints are the exact same part number, so it doesn't matter which one I use. 30, yep, same part number for both sides there. The one that looks like that one, not that one. In like that. outer tie rods. Are they the same part number? No, they are different. That one goes to the driver's side. Just matching them up to the old parts so that you can know exactly what you're dealing with. Also notice the outer tie rod end does not come with the drive nut that locks it in place. So I have to use the one that's already on there. And that's actually fine. I've decided not to replace the inner tie rod end on this side because it's plenty tight. No play in it whatsoever. So all I'm going to do is back that nut on that one off just a hair so that I can spin the old one off. I'll spin the new one on to where it was and tighten it back up. And then my alignment should be pretty darn close. Still need to get a professional alignment. This does not replace a professional alignment, so don't skip that part. You'll eat through tires and it's not worth it. Go spend the money on an alignment. Anyway, let's get these parts off. I've got one more part to remove, the outer tie rod end, and then we can start putting this side back together. It's time. That's perfect. Alright, putting the strut in is exactly the opposite of taking one out. You hold it up through the holes, put the nuts on the top. They don't have to be tight, just enough to hold it in place. Sorry about that stupid neighbor dog. I'm gonna go ahead and cinch that down just so I don't forget to do it later. Good and tight, good enough. Don't forget to tighten down everything. Don't do dumb stuff. T-shirt, link below. Alright, so I got the driver's side, just take the back. I got the passenger side mostly put back together. I got the lower control arm in, the sway bar linkage connected. I forgot to route my brake line back behind that sway linkage, so I have to undo that and reroute that. It's the amateur coming out in me, but anyway, I make mistakes, it's no big deal. I never fails. I get grease all over my face every time I work on cars. Got it all over my arm. I dropped one of the nuts down inside the engine bay and had to go retrieve it, and got all kinds of greasy. But alright, so it's the next day. I don't need to do this anymore because I actually tried to cancel my Amazon order, and it said that cancellation might not be possible because the order was already in process. So I was like, well, that kind of sucks because I was hoping to get my money back and then be able to go buy the tools that I needed to get this job done. But as it turns out, I got confirmation this morning that the part has shipped. So that part will be here in 2 days. It's Tuesday, it'll be here Thursday. In the meantime, I can get this side all dialed in, completely done and ready to rock. And on the other side, I can get the strut done. I can get some of the basics done over there just so that we're ready for when it gets here. I'm gonna put it all back together and be done. So in the meantime, let's get the passenger side completely fixed and dialed in. I've got to reroute my brake line. Not very smart, but make mistakes, just roll with it. Let's get busy, get this project going. I was able to get the brake caliper back around that by just taking out the driveline again from the axle hub itself and just pulling this forward far enough to feed it back behind that bar. Now I can just slam the whole thing back together, except that I want to replace that axle seal. And I've actually got another video that shows this, and I'll link that up above so that you can go see that whole process. I won't show you that here, but just know that I am replacing the seal on both drive lines because I'm not sure which one is leaking. They probably are both leaking, but I'm gonna get that sealed up and get the transmission topped back off so I don't have that problem. I don't want to be that guy. So when I pulled the passenger side axle shaft out, you can see that tear in that. That has got to be replaced. It's just gaping wide open. It's been spewing grease all over the underside of the engine. So I gotta go try to get one of these. Luckily, my buddy Kenny over at O'Reilly's, not a sponsor, is gonna try to hook me up. So let's go see what he can do for me. Well, looky what just showed up. I believe that that is my wheel bearing assembly. So a real quick update. Fall has full on arrived, and tomorrow we're expecting snow in Salt Lake City. There's so much foliage on the trees, and this tree has dumped branches with that much snow on them before. Very concerned about that. So at the very least, I'm moving the 79 Ford out from under that tree tonight. Done too much work on that to have it be crushed by that limb. Our trailer's expendable. Insurance will buy us a new one, that'd be fantastic. And it would be their insurance that buys it. Tried to get them to take that tree out and they won't. Anyway, quick update. It's beautiful weather, it's a little chilly. But here's where we're at. On the passenger side, I've gotten the strut in. The lower A-arm is in. The lower ball joint is attached to the steering knuckle. I just have to attach it to the bottom there. And then this side is more or less done. So I bought the axles. They're right there. Get the axle back in. Axle on the driver's side. Then I can top off the fluid in the transmission. Make sure that that's good. Don't have a lot of space on this side to show you what's going on over here, but basically the same thing, except I've still got to do the lower control arm, the tie rod ends. I need to check the inner, make sure inner's good. If the inner's good, I'm going to leave it because we've actually done those recently. But the outer, the boot is torn, so I'm going to replace that just because I'm already here. So enough talking, let's get busy. But eventually I'm going to do some front end pretty up stuff. I talked about that, but let's make this thing more driver friendly, and I'm practicing on this so I can do the real thing on that. I'm probably going to practice here, and on that. This is in my 99 Dodge, and what I've got here is some rust going over the wheel wells. So I might put fender flares on it, get me some wheel spacers and poke those out about a ½ inch. Give it a little better stance, kind of change the feel of the truck. Down here on the bottom, this is Plastidip actually, and it's wearing so thin. I got more, I just need to put it on it. The easiest way to remove Plastidip that's this thin is to apply more. So I bought a full gallon, and I'm gonna do another gallon all the way around the whole thing, and then eventually I'm gonna take that off and do like a bed liner. But follow the same line because I really like that look, the black at the bottom. Anyway, enough about trucks. Let's fix a commuter car. This car's cheap. It's been good to me. 300,000 miles or so. I'll show you exactly how many miles it's got on it in a little bit. But I'm rounding up to 300,000 miles. That's where it's at. Let's get this thing back together and get on the road. Jeez, sometimes the hardest part of the day is getting the gloves on. That's the thumb. That's why it's not going on right. Put it on wrong. Struggle is real. That's what happens when you're in a hurry. Got an hour and a half. Let's get this done. Yes. Now, assuming I didn't forget any parts, this side's together. Torque down to spec. Bend the flanger or nut down so it can't back out. Pretty much perfect. Better than used, not quite new. And before we put it all back together, show you all the shiny new parts. Clear over to the axle shaft, the lower control arm, lower ball joint, those are all new parts. Up here is the strut assembly. That little bolt right there was the last one that I put on. That holds the brake line out of the way. And this side's done. I'm going to throw the wheel on it. And we'll get that other side back together. Top off our trans axle. And we'll be good to go. Anyway, you've seen somebody put a tire on. You don't need to sit here and watch me do that. Go do something else for a minute. You're still here? You are bored. Don't forget to torque your lug nuts. I usually drive till they're good and hot, let them cool off again, and then torque them one more time. That way you don't end up with a lug going pew down the road. You don't need that. Don't be that guy. Don't do dumb stuff. Alright, more air tools. Torque to spec. Atta kid. This side's done. Let's go do the other side. Finally got that off, but you can tell that that thing is pretty shot. The secret to this and making it easy on yourself is to rebuild your brand new parts to this exact length. But we have to salvage the boot, so we have to take the tie rod end off, take the boot off, put the old part back together exactly the way it is, and then rebuild matching the same size. That way your alignment is at least close enough to get you to an alignment shop before you get your professional alignment. Shiny new parts under there. All the way across. Still need to double check my alignment. I'm going to do that real quick when I get it set back down on the ground. But always be safe. Use jack stands. Don't do dumb stuff. Set your emergency brake. Block the wheels so that it won't move. So that you don't be that guy on the news. Just like that, it's done. Took me way longer than it should have. Just don't have enough time back to back to back. Out with the old parts. The new ones are all in, shiny new, brand new bushings and everything. That bushing right there was the worst one. It was torn down the inside and just loose. But control arms, all the things, all the way down to a new air filter, oil change while I have it up. Now I just got to clean up my mess, and then I can start doing some of the fun stuff, but that's going to save for another video, so be sure and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you feel like I've earned it. Sorry that I didn't get a lot of this process videoed, but I've got a big mess in my garage and not enough space to do all the things I gotta do. But anyway, I appreciate you watching. This is Troy with DIY Home and Auto with another video on my 2004 Toyota Corolla S manual transmission, because sticks are awesome. As my daughter said in another video, manuals rule. But this is Troy, DIY Home and Auto, checking out.